He had exactly $15,000 in his bank account, but he gave it all for a stranger's child heart surgery. 3 days later, when his phone rang, he experienced the shock of his life. David Morrison had exactly $15,247 in his savings account, money he'd earned working construction jobs for 3 years, skipping meals, avoiding any entertainment, saving every possible dollar. This money was earmarked for one thing: his 8-year-old daughter Emma's future college tuition. That Wednesday afternoon at Chicago Children's Hospital, when he encountered a family he'd never met before, he had no idea that his life savings would serve a completely different purpose. When he saw the young mother crying in the hospital corridor, he approached her. She was speaking Spanish, but David understood the universal language of a parent's tears. When the translator arrived, he learned that the woman's 6-year-old son, Alejandro, needed emergency heart surgery. $15,000. They had no insurance. The decision David made in that moment would not only save a child's life, but completely change the course of his own existence. Welcome to Stories Worth Telling. Before we begin this powerful story of sacrifice, hope, and unexpected miracles, please let us know in the comments which city you're watching us from today. And if you believe stories like these deserve to be remembered, hit that subscribe button and help us ensure they're never forgotten. David Morrison had learned the hard way that life could change in an instant. 3 years ago, he'd been a happily married construction worker with a steady income and a bright future planned with his wife Sarah and their daughter Emma. Then Sarah was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Within 6 months, she was gone, leaving David to raise Emma alone. The medical bills from Sarah's treatment had wiped out their savings, forced them to sell their house, and left David working double shifts just to keep up with rent on their small apartment in Chicago's West Side. But David was determined to rebuild. Every extra dollar went into Emma's college fund. He wanted her to have opportunities he'd never had. That October afternoon, David was at Chicago Children's Hospital for Emma's routine checkup. She'd been having minor respiratory issues, probably just seasonal allergies, but David wasn't taking any chances. After losing Sarah, he'd become hypervigilant about Emma's health. While waiting in the pediatric wing, David noticed commotion near the cardiac unit. A young Hispanic woman, probably in her late 20s, was sobbing uncontrollably while speaking rapidly in Spanish to a doctor. Beside her stood a man who was clearly her husband, holding a small boy who couldn't have been older than 6 or 7. The child's lips had a bluish tint, and David could see he was struggling to breathe. Even without medical training, David recognized the signs of a serious heart condition. He'd seen similar symptoms during Sarah's illness when her heart had been stressed by chemotherapy. Dr. Martinez, the attending physician, was speaking in both English and Spanish, clearly trying to explain something complicated to the worried parents. David caught fragments of the conversation: congenital heart defect, immediate surgery, without intervention. A translator arrived and David overheard the full explanation. The boy, Alejandro Rodriguez, had been born with a complex congenital heart condition that had worsened dramatically over the past month. His heart was failing, and without immediate surgical intervention, he would not survive the week. The surgery was available, the surgical team was ready, but there was one insurmountable problem. The family had no health insurance, and the cost of the surgery was $15,000, money that had to be paid up front before the hospital could proceed. Manuel Rodriguez, Alejandro's father, worked 2 jobs: landscaping during the day and cleaning offices at night. His wife Maria was a home health aide. Together, they earned about $35,000 a year, barely enough to support their family of 4. They had no savings, no credit, no way to come up with $15,000. David watched as Manuel pleaded with the doctor, offering to work for the hospital for free, promising to pay in installments, begging for any solution that would save his son's life. Dr. Martinez was sympathetic but firm. Hospital policy required payment or insurance authorization before any elective surgery. and technically this qualified as elective, since it wasn't an immediately life-threatening emergency, just life-threatening over the next few days. Emma's appointment finished quickly, just allergies, as David had suspected. But as they prepared to leave, David couldn't stop thinking about the Rodriguez family. He kept seeing Alejandro's struggle to breathe, Maria's tears, Manuel's desperate attempts to find a solution. That evening, David sat at his kitchen table with Emma doing homework, while he stared at his bank account on his laptop. $15,247. 3 years of sacrifice, 3 years of saying no to Emma when she asked for things other kids had. 3 years of working 60-hour weeks and eating ramen noodles for dinner. "Daddy, are you okay?" Emma asked, looking up from her math homework. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just thinking about something." "Is it about the sad family at the hospital today?" David was surprised. "You noticed them? The little boy looked really sick, like Mommy did before she went to heaven." David's heart clenched. Emma rarely talked about Sarah, but when she did, it always hit him hard. "Yes, he's very sick."
"Can the doctors help him, like they tried to help Mommy?"
"They can, but it's complicated." Emma was quiet for a moment, then said, "Mommy used to say that when we can help someone, we should, even if it's hard." That night, David couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Sarah's words, about Emma's innocent wisdom, about Alejandro fighting for breath. He thought about what he would do if Emma needed surgery and he couldn't afford it. He thought about how desperate and helpless Manuel must feel. By morning, David had made his decision. He arrived at Chicago Children's Hospital at 7 a.m. before his work shift started. He found Dr. Martinez just beginning rounds and asked to speak with him privately. "Doctor, the Rodriguez family with the little boy who needs heart surgery. Are they still here?" "Yes, they've been here all night. We're trying to work out a payment plan, but honestly, Mr. Morrison, it's not looking promising. The boy needs surgery within 48 hours, and the hospital administration is being very strict about the payment policy." David took a deep breath. "What if I paid for it?" Dr. Martinez looked confused. "I'm sorry? The surgery, what if I paid the $15,000? "Mr. Morrison, that's incredibly generous, but are you sure you understand what you're saying? $15,000 is a significant amount of money." "I have it. I want to pay for Alejandro's surgery." Dr. Martinez stared at David for a long moment. "May I ask why? You don't know this family." David thought about Emma's words, about Sarah's values, about the kind of man he wanted to be. "Because if it were my daughter, I'd hope someone would help us." 2 hours later, David had transferred $15,000 from his savings account to Chicago Children's Hospital. Alejandro Rodriguez was scheduled for surgery the following morning. When David told the Rodriguez family what he'd done, Maria collapsed into his arms, sobbing with relief and gratitude. Manuel tried to speak, but couldn't find words. Through the translator, they promised to pay David back somehow, someday. "You don't owe me anything," David said. "Just focus on your son getting better." That evening, David had to explain to Emma why their college fund was gone. She listened carefully as he described what had happened, why he'd made the choice he did. "So we don't have money for college anymore?" she asked. "We'll figure it out, sweetheart. There are scholarships, student loans, other ways. But that little boy needed help right now." Emma was quiet for a moment, then hugged her father tight. "I'm proud of you, Daddy. Mommy would be proud too." Alejandro's surgery took place the next morning. It was a complex procedure that lasted 6 hours, but Dr. Patricia Chen, the lead cardiac surgeon, was one of the best in the country. David found himself pacing the waiting room alongside the Rodriguez family, as invested in the outcome as if Alejandro were his own son. When Dr. Chen emerged from surgery with a smile on her face, The relief was overwhelming. The surgery had been successful. Alejandro's heart was now functioning normally, and while he'd need follow-up care and monitoring, he was expected to make a full recovery. David visited Alejandro every day during his week-long hospital stay. The boy was shy at first, but gradually warmed up to the man who had saved his life. Despite the language barrier, they communicated through smiles, games, and Emma's occasional translations. She was learning Spanish at school. On the day Alejandro was discharged, the Rodriguez family insisted on cooking dinner for David and Emma. It was a joyful celebration, with Alejandro looking healthier than he had since David first saw him. The boy's color was normal, his breathing easy, his energy returning. 3 days later, David was at his construction site, working on a high-rise project downtown, when his phone rang. The number was unfamiliar, but the voice on the other end was crisp and professional. "Mr. David Morrison." "Yes, this is David. My name is Jonathan Walsh. I'm calling on behalf of Dr. Michael Chen. I believe you know his daughter, Dr. Patricia Chen, who performed surgery on young Alejandro Rodriguez last week." David's heart started racing. Had something gone wrong with Alejandro? "Is the boy okay? Did something happen?" "Alejandro is fine, Mr. Morrison. In fact, he's doing remarkably well. I'm calling about something else entirely. Dr. Chen would like to meet with you. Are you available this afternoon?" "I'm at work, but is everything okay?" "Everything is more than okay, Mr. Morrison. Dr. Chen has a proposition for you. Can you meet him at his office at 3 p.m. today?" David's mind raced with possibilities, none of which prepared him for what he was about to discover. Dr. Michael Chen's office was in one of Chicago's most prestigious medical buildings. David felt out of place in his work clothes, but the receptionist greeted him warmly and led him to a luxurious conference room overlooking the city. Dr. Chen was a distinguished man in his 70s, impeccably dressed and carrying himself with the quiet authority of someone accustomed to respect. But when he looked at David, his eyes were warm with genuine emotion. "Mr. Morrison, thank you for coming. Please, sit down." David remained standing, nervous and confused. "Dr. Chen, if this is about payment for the surgery, I want you to know that I don't expect anything back. I just wanted to help." Dr. Chen smiled. "That's exactly why I wanted to meet you. Please, sit. What I'm about to tell you may come as quite a shock." David sat, gripping the arms of the leather chair. "Mr. Morrison, are you familiar with the Chen Medical Foundation?" "No, sir. It's one of the largest charitable medical organizations in the Midwest. We provide funding for medical research, surgical equipment, and financial assistance for families who can't afford necessary medical care. The foundation was established 30 years ago with a very specific mission." David nodded, still not understanding why he was there. "The foundation was created because of a personal experience I had as a young doctor. I witnessed a family lose their child because they couldn't afford surgery that would have saved his life. I swore that day that I would do everything in my power to ensure that no child would die simply because their family lacked financial resources." Dr. Chen paused, studying David's face. "For 30 years, the foundation has helped thousands of families, but we've always struggled with one particular challenge: identifying the right people to lead our mission. We need individuals who understand the value of sacrifice, who have demonstrated genuine compassion, and who can make difficult decisions when lives hang in the balance." "Dr. Chen, I'm not sure I understand." "Mr. Morrison, 3 days ago, you gave your life savings to save a child you'd never met. You didn't ask for recognition, you didn't seek publicity, you didn't even tell the family your full name. You simply saw a need and filled it, at great personal cost." David shifted uncomfortably. "Anyone would have done the same thing." "No, Mr. Morrison, they wouldn't have. In fact, in 30 years of running this foundation, I've rarely encountered someone who demonstrated such pure, selfless compassion. That's why I'm offering you a position as the Director of Family Services for the Chen Medical Foundation." David blinked, certain he'd misheard. "I'm sorry, what?" "The position comes with a salary of $85,000 annually, full health benefits for you and Emma, and a $50,000 signing bonus. Your job would be to work with families in situations similar to the Rodriguez family, identifying needs, coordinating care, and ensuring that no child goes without necessary medical treatment because of financial constraints." David's mouth fell open. $85,000? Dr. Chen, I'm a construction worker. I don't have any medical training or administration experience. You have something more valuable than training, Mr. Morrison. You have a heart that recognizes human need and the courage to act on it. Everything else can be taught. Dr. Chen slid a folder across the table. "There's more. The foundation is also establishing the Sarah Morrison Memorial Scholarship Fund for children who have lost a parent to cancer. We'll provide full college scholarships to qualified students, starting with Emma when she reaches college age." David's eyes filled with tears at the mention of Sarah's name. "I don't understand. How do you know about Sarah?" "After what you did for Alejandro, I had our team research your background. I learned about your wife's battle with cancer, about the medical bills that bankrupted your family, about the sacrifices you've made as a single father. Your story confirmed what I already knew. You're exactly the kind of person we need leading this foundation." David looked down at the folder, then back at Dr. Chen. "Why? Why would you do this?" Dr. Chen's expression grew serious. "Mr. Morrison, Alejandro Rodriguez is my great-grandson." The words hit David like a physical blow. "Your what?" "Maria Rodriguez is my granddaughter. She and Manuel have been estranged from our family for years due to a disagreement about their marriage. My son, Maria's father, disapproved of Manuel because he didn't have a college education, came from a working-class family. The rift in our family meant that Maria never asked for help when Alejandro got sick, even though she knew we had the resources to pay for his surgery." David struggled to process this information. "So you knew about Alejandro needing surgery, not until after you had already paid for it. When Patricia, my daughter, told me about the anonymous benefactor who had saved Alejandro's life, I had to investigate. I needed to know who had done what our family failed to do." Dr. Chen's voice became thick with emotion. "Mr. Morrison, you showed my great-grandson more love and compassion than his own family did. You gave everything you had for a child you didn't know, while we had millions of dollars and did nothing because of pride and stubbornness. But Alejandro didn't know who you were either. To him, you were just another stranger." "Exactly, and that's what makes your sacrifice so remarkable. You helped him because it was the right thing to do, not because you expected anything in return." David sat in stunned silence, trying to absorb the magnitude of what he was hearing. "The position I'm offering you is real, Mr. Morrison. The foundation needs someone who understands what it means to sacrifice for others, someone who has lived the reality of choosing between financial security and doing what's right. We need someone who can look at desperate families and see themselves." Dr. Chen leaned forward. "But more than that, this is my way of saying thank you. You didn't just save Alejandro's life. You showed our family what unconditional love looks like. Because of you, Maria and Manuel have agreed to reconcile with us. You've given me back my granddaughter and great-grandson." That evening, David sat in his small apartment with Emma, still processing the day's revelations. The job offer lay on the kitchen table, along with paperwork that would transform their lives. "So we're not poor anymore?" Emma asked, trying to understand what had happened. "We were never poor, sweetheart. We just didn't have much money. But now, because of what we did for Alejandro, we're going to be able to help lots of other families too." "And I can still go to college?" "You can go to any college you want, and so can other kids whose parents can't afford it." Emma was quiet for a moment, processing this information with the remarkable adaptability of childhood. "Daddy, do you think Mommy knows what happened?" David pulled Emma close, thinking about Sarah and the values she'd instilled in their family. "I think Mommy always knew that if we did the right thing, good things would come back to us. Maybe not in ways we expected, but somehow." 6 months later, David stood in the Chicago Children's Hospital auditorium, addressing an audience of doctors, nurses, administrators, and families. As the new director of family services for the Chen Medical Foundation, he was announcing the launch of their expanded program to provide free cardiac surgery for uninsured children. In the front row sat the Rodriguez family, Maria, Manuel, and a healthy, vibrant Alejandro who had become like a nephew to Emma. Beside them sat Dr. Michael Chen, who had indeed become a grandfather figure to David and Emma. "6 months ago," David began, "I made a decision that I thought was simple. I saw a child who needed help, and I helped him. I didn't know that decision would change not just one life, but hundreds of lives." He gestured to a display showing the foundation's impact: 127 children who had received free surgery, 89 families who had been saved from bankruptcy, 43 college scholarships awarded to children who had lost parents to medical expenses. The Chen Medical Foundation operates on a simple principle: no child should suffer because their family can't afford medical care. But we've learned something else over these past months. When we help others without expecting anything in return, we create ripples that spread far beyond what we can see. David's voice grew stronger as he continued. Alejandro Rodriguez didn't just receive a new heart that day. His surgery healed a broken family, created new friendships, and launched a foundation that has already changed hundreds of lives. One act of kindness became a wave of compassion that continues to grow. After the presentation, David found himself surrounded by families wanting to share their stories, doctors eager to partner with the foundation, and volunteers inspired to get involved. But the moment that meant the most came when Alejandro, now healthy and energetic, ran up to him with a drawing. The picture showed 2 stick figures, one tall, one small, standing next to a hospital. At the bottom, in careful first-grade handwriting, Alejandro had written, "Thank you for saving my life, Mr. David. Love, Alejandro." The picture showed 2 stick figures, one tall, one small, standing next to a hospital. At the bottom, in careful first-grade handwriting, Alejandro had written, "Thank you for saving my life, Mr. David. Love, Alejandro." David knelt down to Alejandro's level, his eyes filling with tears as he looked at the drawing. "This is the most beautiful picture I've ever seen, Alejandro. Thank you." "My mama says you're an angel," Alejandro said matter-of-factly, "but you don't have wings." David laughed, pulling the boy into a gentle hug. "Sometimes angels don't need wings, buddy. Sometimes they just need to care about other people." As the evening wound down, David walked to his car with Emma, who had been watching from the back of the auditorium. The drawing was carefully tucked under his arm, a treasure he would frame and hang in his office. "Dad," Emma said as they drove home, "do you think we'll keep helping people forever?" David smiled, thinking about Sarah's words from so long ago. When you help someone, you're not just changing their life, you're changing yours too. I think, sweetheart, that once you start helping people, you can't really stop. It becomes part of who you are. Emma nodded solemnly, then brightened. "Good. I want to help people too when I grow up." "You already do," David said, remembering how Emma had befriended Alejandro, how she'd shared her toys and books during his recovery. "You already do." As they pulled into their driveway, David looked up at the stars and whispered a quiet, "Thank you," to Sarah. She had been right all along. Kindness was never wasted, and love had a way of multiplying when you gave it away. The foundation would continue to grow, touching more lives than David could have ever imagined. But tonight, he was content knowing that sometimes the most extraordinary things begin with the simplest decision: to help someone who needs it. expecting nothing in return.